Hi there, I'm Lewis Foster, a journalist up here at Manx Radio. It's a week to go now until Tynwald Day, and if you haven't decided to do so already, you may be considering bringing forward a petition. After all, it is your right as a Manx resident to do so, and an opportunity such as this only comes around once a year. But I can imagine the prospect is quite daunting, so I've been chatting with the man in the know, and he'll be there on hand to give you all the advice you need. Clerk of Tynwald, Jonathan King.
Well, as far as we know, Tynwald has been here for at least 1,000 years, and it's always had some role in settling disputes within the island. In the modern era, the Constitution developed in the 19th century to separate out the job of Parliament from the job of the courts. And so the idea that you would go to Tynwald Hill to settle a dispute with your neighbour or with the Lord of Man or whatever rather fell out of use at that time. But it was brought back after the Second World War in the late 1950s and has been going in the form we know it today since that time. So the idea is that as a person who lives in the Isle of Man, you have the right to come to Tynwald on Tynwald Day and present your petition. There have always been certain rules, I say always, okay, in the modern era, there have been rules about what you can do. The most important rule is that you have to petition about something which is not a court case. So if your gripe is with your neighbour and you think that their garage has spoiled your view and shouldn't have been given planning permission and should be pulled down, that's a private matter between you and your neighbour. And Tynwald, as the legislature of the Isle of Man, is not going to intervene because that's not the job of the legislature. However, if the thing that happened with your neighbour's garage actually illustrates in your mind that the whole planning system is in disarray, then that's a different matter, and that's something Tynwald can always take an interest in. So, because it affects not just you and your neighbour, but it affects everybody who lives in the island. So that's the fundamental principle of it. It's got to be a matter of public interest. It's got to be something which affects everybody in the island.
About raising the profile of an issue as well, and what sort of issues have we seen over the past that have started out as petitions, as it were?
Well, I mean, the most recent one which we've dealt with in Tynwald by way of a select committee was to do with footpaths and greenways. But there has been an enormous array of topics raised in this way. I suppose the most famous one would be the petition of Alan Shea in 1991, which was about the treatment under the criminal law then of homosexual acts, and that law was reformed quite soon after that petition. But there have been many other topics. I mean, I'm just leafing through here the last few years. Top of the list last year was the accessibility of the church at Church of St John the Baptist at St John's. That petition was not actually in order, but it certainly had the effect of raising the profile of the issue. Looking at 2021, we had the public rights of way, which is the one I mentioned. But we had various other topics. I'm just trying to find. It's difficult as a clerk to pick examples because you have to try and be politically impartial. But we've had COVID border policies. We've had the organisation of Manx Care, and before that the health and social care in its previous guise. We've had quite a lot on education, always quite a lot on planning. Some legal issues. The law of adverse possession was one that was picked up by a committee a few years ago. Horse trams tend to come up. One I remember from a committee was the law relating to grandchildren. That was a petition committee within the last few years. We've had renewable energy. We've had police complaints. We've had water rates. You name it, really. Anything that Tynwald has an interest in can be the subject of a petition, and that means pretty much anything in the Isle of Man.
And we'll get around to what the new rules are now. But year on year, what typical numbers have we seen? Has there been a trend in over the years, over the decades, I suppose, since 1957, I believe, when it was the year when it came back? How many petitioners come in each year on Tynwald Day?
Well, it's a good question, and I haven't got the figures going right back to 1957 in front of me. I have got the figures for the last 6 years, And the peak over that period was 2019 with 25 petitions. And the lowest in that period, actually the year before, 2018, there were only 5. But it fluctuates quite a lot, and I don't know how to explain that. It doesn't appear to be directly linked to the political cycle of the House of Keys. And I think it also, because the numbers are quite small, they can be affected by individual actions. So 1 or 2 people have really taken petitioning to heart and have brought quite large numbers of petitions. Others have only ever petitioned once in their lifetime. So it's really difficult to see patterns. But as I say, over the last few years, it's been anything from 5 to 25.
And so coming up to Tynwald Day this year then, what should those petitioners who perhaps it's their first time planning to bring a petition, or perhaps those who have been doing it, like you say, over the years, what should they know ahead of this Tynwald Day?
Well, first, as I say, the procedure exists for you. It is a right that you have as a person who lives in the Isle of Man, and so I would encourage anyone who's thinking about using this procedure to be bold and to use it, because that's what it's there for. The best way to do that is to start by reading our guidance, which is on the Tynwald website, and we've just published a new issue of that, a new edition earlier this week. So I hope that's clear. It's as clear as I can make it, but if it's not clear, please tell me. The thing it says, and I hope it says this clearly, is that you can always come and talk to me about your petition, and I'm very happy to advise face-to-face or by email or on the phone, whatever you like. And my job is not to help you win your argument against anybody else, but it is to help you get the right words down on the page which set out your case and which everybody will understand what exactly it is you're trying to get Tynwald to do and why.
And those changes that we've been hearing about, what are those this year?
Well, there's just the one change, Lewis, as it happens. I mean, there were several other changes to do with other petition processes, but as far as Tynwald Hill is concerned, there's just one change. And the good news is it makes it easier for the petitioner. So it used to be that you had to walk a sort of a tightrope. You weren't allowed to bring a matter which could be settled by a court, but you were supposed to bring a matter in which you had a personal interest. So in the example I gave about the planning system, I said if you didn't like your neighbour's extension and you thought it proved the planning system was in disarray, you could bring a petition about the planning system. In that example, it all starts with a personal grievance that you've got with your neighbour, and you broaden out from there. Under the new rules, you don't need that personal grievance. So you can just come to Tynwald Hill and do a petition about the planning system or anything you like without the need for a personal grievance. So that makes it easier.
And what is the hope, I suppose? Is the hope to see more people bringing petitions this time around? Like you say, make access and avoid having to walk that tightrope, as you mentioned.
Yes, I think so. I mean, it's a system which exists for the benefit of the island, and so by making it easier to use, I think that is definitely meant to improve the use that's made of it. I mean, it has to be said, on the other hand, that only a very small number of these petitions get a lot further in formal terms through the Tynwald procedures that follow. So I don't think I'm expecting a big increase in the numbers of petitions which actually get picked up by members of Tynwald and become select committees. I don't think there's any reason to expect that to change. But what will change is that every year, when the Standing Orders Committee reports on the petitions a few days or weeks after Tynwald Day, it won't be wrestling over technicalities and ruling things out of order, which are actually perfectly good topics, but just used to fail on this technicality about the personal grievance.
And there is the caveat on the guidance which says these matters can take some time if they are picked up over the once the petition has been brought forward. Is this trying to speed up that process just a tiny bit, even if minutely, if that's a word?
Well, no, I don't think it will speed it up. I'm afraid, as I say, it will reduce the instances of technical breach of the rules. But changing the world is hard. We all want to do our best for the community, and that goes for all members of Tynwald and all petitioners. We're all trying to make the island a better place. But the reality is it doesn't happen overnight. Tynwald Day is the 5th of July this year, Wednesday the 5th. And you can bring a petition by turning up on the 5th of July and bringing it. To make the best of the procedure, I would encourage people to get in touch with me in advance and get my advice on getting their petition into order. But whether or not you've done that, we look forward to seeing you on the day, and petitioners are encouraged to gather at 10:15 in the morning at the Lich Gate near the Church of St John.
Clerk of Tynwald, Jonathan King there. Well, if you are seeking some last-minute guidance on your petition, you can find the Clerk of Tynwald's office on Finch Road in Douglas or call 685500. That's all from me for now. Guru Mayed, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio Newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.